Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's episode of Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter. And with me tonight, it is my honor and pleasure and privilege to welcome Tyler from Pop Culture Corner to the Late Night Q&A. Ty, it's so great to finally have you here. It's been a long time coming, and I have to say, it's wonderful to see you here, man. And I think what's so fantastic about this is how you started out hating my guts. I
God.
never thought in a million years that we would come together and actually be talking about something that we're both very passionate about in a positive way. I'm so excited right now that I just don't know what to say. I've been looking
This is
forward
a
to this.
demonstration to everyone out there that doesn't matter what your views are, as long as you can have a healthy conversation, that's all that matters. Now, like I was saying to you previously, your audience most likely doesn't like me, right? And maybe it's because we're misunderstanding each other. So hopefully, in an effort of also talking about something Zod and I are really passionate about in, simulation theory, multiversal theory, all that kind of stuff, maybe we can find some common ground and also dive into some of my DC beliefs and kind of clear some of that stuff up.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny because over the many months, you and I have been talking behind the scenes and slowly but surely building some common ground between us and kind of trying to get to know each other a little bit. I know I've appeared on Pop Culture Corner a few times, and you're and like I said, I've come to appreciate what you do and the direction that you take things, and I know I have my own way of doing things too, and it's just really really nice when two very different people can, as you said, find that common ground. And for me there's nothing better than that, because as I get older, I realize that it's not about anything or any goofy one thing that you may disagree about. It's more about experiences and making those connections, having those friendships, and getting to know more people in a positive way. Because at the end of the day, we're all just people, and we're all just trying to find some form of positivity, and we're all going to have things that we love and hate and whatever. But at this point, when I see things like this, it gives me hope. It gives me hope for the future when I see things like this. When I see somebody who couldn't stand me on the level that you were at, and I see where we are now, it actually kind of makes me tear up a little, because it makes me realize that it's anything is possible, and you just have to have patience, and you just have to be willing to put your hand out in friendship and say, hey, let's give this a chance and see if this can work out.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly.
So our topic for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this is something new for Late Night Q&A. Ty and I tonight are going to dive deeply into our views on simulation theory. And for those that don't really know what simulation theory actually is, to make a long story short and just to simplify it, it is the belief that we are, as people, living in some sort of computer simulated world, which means the world we're living in is essentially just like the Matrix.
Yeah. And the theory derived from the Matrix. Like the theory, maybe it had been around in some form or fashion before the Matrix.
But the Matrix brought it out.
The Matrix brought it out in full form and made it a little bit more mainstream, in the sense of, people could understand what you were saying. There are many there's much evidence to suggest that we might actually be living in a computer simulation. Things like deja vu, things, the Mandela effect,
Yeah.
which we talked about earlier. Things like the Berenstein Bears versus the Bernstein, or what's that one?
Yeah, it's the Bernstein Bears and the Berenstein Bears, and it's people have actually found evidence from back in the day where it was actually spelt the way a lot of people remember it, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
trying to pass it off now as just misspellings in like TV guides and those kinds of things. And I essentially, and I remember it too, where the most common one is the character of Curious George, the monkey. Uh, People remember him having a tail,
yeah.
but that's
Yep.
considered Mandela effect because if you look at all current printings of Curious George books, he
There's no
doesn't have a
tail.
tail.
Yeah, which
It's
doesn't.
fascinating.
It really is fascinating when you start to think about, when you start to get down and deep into it, the amount of, like, a lot of people will tell you, there's one with the Statue of Liberty, where people think, or if you were to ask most people, where is the Statue of Liberty, they would say it's on Liberty Island or something, whatever. But it's actually on um, a different island. It's in an island that nobody's ever heard of, but they've, I mean, plenty of people have been there. They've been to the Statue of Liberty. They thought it was this place, and it was actually, it's not. I know that's a very obscure one. I can't remember the names, but the Statue of Liberty, for a long time, a lot of people thought it was on Liberty Island, but it's not, and it throws people off. And I'm, it's part of that Mandela effect thing.
Yeah, and Chad Snyderverse here says another good example is people thinking Pikachu has a black stripe on his tail.
He doesn't.
I yeah, that's something that I never really thought about because I'm not really into Pokemon, but but I mean that could be I think about like the Monopoly guy, about does he have the monocle.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
different there's different things, and then it's like people will say, well, no, that's the Planters Peanuts guy. But then you look at different things, and I could swear growing up that the Monopoly guy had a monocle. I remember that back in the day. Now I don't know if I'm misremembering, but Batdan 530 brings up a good thing here. The Luke, I am your father versus no, I am your father. That's a very common one, and
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
actually used and shown in the movie you and I were talking about before we started, the movie The Mandela Effect, which I highly recommend people check out because that movie delves into and deals with all sorts of these Mandela Effect like concepts that really really fall squarely
And
on the
it's
shoulders of simulation theory.
so fascinating because, honestly, in my opinion, when you start to, it doesn't matter whether you're Christian, it doesn't matter whether you're a certain religion. When you start diving into things like this, you're expanding the way you're you're basically allowing yourself to stretch your brain muscles, right? And, like, and think and formulate opinions, and it's a healthy thing to do. Um, Honestly, I think, just to believe, because when you talk to someone who's religious, or like you said, Zod, earlier, someone who believes that the Earth is flat, it's hard to have a conversation with them because they are so dead set on just that being the truth, right? So they're not open minded, and you can't have a conversation with someone who's not open minded.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a rarity for somebody to believe that the earth is flat, but those people are out there, and I totally know somebody who is 100% behind that theory and will not believe that the earth is a globe no matter what kind of evidence uh exists to show him. oh, that evidence is fake. It's very, very fraudulent. It's not. They want you to believe this, but it's not that way. And it's like, I, I truly believe that we are
Next
living
time you
on a
see
global.
next time you see him, ask him if he believes in gravity.
I will. That's a
All
good
right.
question. Kupi Malik says, "What are we discussing again? We live in the simulation theory. Yeah, it's interesting, but I don't subscribe to it. There's a lot of people that don't subscribe to it, Kupi. It's one of those things where
It's just a theory.
it's just a theory, but lately, scientifically, okay, a lot of scientists are coming around to the idea. It's getting more and more traction
Yeah.
as time goes on. And as Ty pointed out, the Matrix really brought it to fruition for a lot of people, because now now you're taking it
You
more
had
seriously.
visual cues and visual aid the Matrix allowed for people to understand it on a metaphysical level, right? Because they could understand the Matrix, therefore they could understand simulation theory. And that's not all. Like the multiverse theory, right? We were talking about it the other night on, God, what was it?
That was one of your podcasts.
That was okay. That was on Sunday. Multiversal theory. Like, who knows if aliens are just multiversal versions of us that have traveled here, and we're mistaking them for aliens. Again, what we don't know as a species, we tend to chalk up to, the wonders of the world, magic, or just fantasy. So just because we can't understand it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to perceive it.
Well, what I like to look at, and what I think is the biggest piece of evidence that we may be living in a simulation, is quantum computers. Because quantum computers have the ability to do so much that the fabric of reality can literally be altered or manipulated in different ways as a result of people messing with quantum computers. This is why you don't see so many quantum computers, people using, it's going to be a while before regular people have access to quantum computers.
Right. Because and do you believe that, like, for instance, the time travel thing, right? Like, if you were to if say, let's just say, for lack of a real life version, if time travel was invented, do you think that there would be far more detriment than positivity?
No, in my opinion, I feel like time travel is like this. I can put time travel in the same category as simulation theory, as being that if you went into, say you went into your past and you affected your past and you impacted it in a positively or negative way, you could exist in that past that you created, but the past that you left would still exist and go on as it was meant to go on.
So a branch timeline.
Yes, branching. I believe in branching 1000%, because there's multiple paths you can go on. Like one day you could decide to brush your teeth with the toothbrush on the left, or the next day you could brush your teeth with the
Right.
toothbrush on the right. But that's not going to really impact anything in the grand scheme of things. But there has to be a branching point for that.
Right.
So to me, I feel
it's like the great. It's like the. I'm sorry to cut you off.
no problem.
It's like the great episode of Community. Did you watch Community?
No.
Oh my God, Zod. Community is by far one of the greatest shows, and it was actually created by the Russo brothers.
Okay.
Cool. And it was oh my God, they have this episode where they have a party, and they're all sitting at the table, and the pizza man rings the doorbell. So someone picks up a die and tosses it up in the air, and whoever it lands on, number 1, 2, 3, 4, subsequently the person would have to go get the pizza depending on where they're sitting. But Abed, who's the, you know, he's the us of the, of the group. He's the nerd. He's like, Jeff, by rolling that die, you've created 6 different alternate timelines, and they go through each alternate timeline, and it's a fascinating episode.
I'll have to check it out. I'm glad you mentioned it because I have not watched it, but I've heard some things in the past in passing, and I'm so excited to check it out. I'm definitely going to get to it. I'll probably start watching it immediately after the stream. I'm for me,
watch the episode Remedial Chaos Theory.
Okay.
I know I'm a community expert. I know every single episode title. I watch it almost so every single night. I either watch, like, when I'm going to bed, because I don't want to watch, when I go to bed, I don't want to watch something that like has weight. Like, I'm not going to start fucking watching Inception before bed. So I put on comedy like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Community,
Okay.
or The Office or some Parks and Rec.
I'm kind of the opposite. I'll turn on black and white Twilight Zone, and it'll like creep me out before I go to sleep. I'll be like, "Whoa, okay, that was a little bit much."
The Twilight Zone's actually done an episode on this topic. The simulation stuff. But back to it. I have a question. If you were given the option, say we are living in a simulation right now.
Yeah.
Right? As of right now, we're all in a simulation. This show is in a simulation. The advent, what does that make augmented? What does that make virtual reality?
Virtual reality is us coming closer to creating the simulations that whoever the creator, I really believe, honestly.
So, but
to back that up, I believe that the creator of the simulation theory is probably future versions of us who created the simulation.
Okay, so that ties in multiversal theory. Well, not multiversal theory, but it ties in a couple different things, because now, if they are future versions of ourselves, and they're not gods, right? Then, we're on the verge of becoming those. So you're saying we're on the
you've
verge
heard of the quantum singularity, right? You've heard of that. And when the singularity happens, we are going to essentially achieve virtual immortality, because
through machine, right?
Through lots of different things. Like, for example, there'll be nanotechnology that'll be able to cure just about any physical or mental ailment that you have.
Right.
There'll be various things that will allow humanity to essentially ascend from where we are now. And if this is just a simulation, when that happens, I mean, I'm a big fan of virtual reality. I love virtual reality and the idea of what they're trying to do with augmented reality too, in which it's essentially virtual reality, but in a way where you're not going to have to wear glasses, and it'll essentially allow you to interact with the virtual world in the world that you're in now, but
through like hologram and stuff like that.
Yes, holographic type stuff.
Do you think that one day we could live in a world like Ready Player One?
Yeah,
I really do think
absolutely.
That.
I think we're headed there. I think it's just a matter of time. I would say probably within the next 15 to 20 years at the current pace we're moving at, maybe even faster, depending. I mean, it's incredible.
You guys want to hear a crazy statistic?
Yeah.
Now, so, and this will blow people's minds. If the now I'm talking about the creation. Now take all religion out of this. The Big Bang happens. Now we start recording, right? This is our book. We start recording from the moment the Big Bang happens. We have each year that passes is approximately one page. I'm sorry. Every 250,000 oh God, I'm fucking this up. Every 2,000 years is one page of this book.
Okay.
In total, we'd have about 150 to 200 pages, right? So that being said, or maybe it was 80 to 100. I don't remember. But only most of the book is the same fucking thing, right? Sometimes, here and there we create fire, right? Every once in a while we do something like build the pyramids, but nothing really truly happens in this book until the last page, the last paragraph. That's how we've literally in the last 50 to 100 years, we have 1,000,000% increased our technological advancement, like our technological capability, like throughout the entire history of the universe. Nothing ever has been is like this, right? No period of time in the world has ever seen what we're seeing right now. I know every generation says, "Oh, I was the last one to be with the streetlights on. I was on this." No, the real thing is 100, 200 years ago, if you brought someone into today, they would think we were sorcerers.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
They would think we were fucking sorcerers. We have done remarkable things in the past 100 years alone that have advanced the last 8,000 years.
It almost comes off like that's some of the greatest evidence we have for simulation theory right there. The fact that we're advancing on the level that we are.
Because it seems that ever since the advent of the computer, or like the supercomputer, let's call it, right? The smart technology, our technology has just doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled. And each time it's just doubling, right? It's doubling down and becoming far more intricate and complicated. And our technology, and like I said, we had the Industrial Revolution, and then all of a sudden, now we're fucking virtually cyborgs, right? If you think about it, we're all kind of cyborgs. We have these phones basically attached to our hips that have all the information we could ever need, right? We're virtually cyborgs. Look at us right now. We're talking to cameras, relaying it through the fucking satellites of the world back down, and we're live on YouTube and maybe another platform.
It's because what they say that in the future your phone is going to be in your head, it's going to be in your brain, and you're going to be able to just process it that way.
Elon's already onto this with Neuralink. Neuralink is of course Elon got the funding because of the implications it has for the medical community, right? Curing things like Alzheimer's or other mental illness.
Yeah, that's all well and good, but we both know that it's going to go to the porn industry first, because everything starts in the porn industry and then it evolves into, oh, this is for the medical field, this is for this is for that. So yeah, it's just going to be a way to you can neurologically link with your virtual porn at first.
And then it will get but yeah, Neuralink is, he might have, like I said, you got the funding in the startup because of the medical implications, but we all know that basically what Elon's end game is to be able to have the internet or all the information at will in your head.
Brain waves. Remember Batman Forever?
Yeah.
Remember Bruce Wayne told the Riddler, it's too complicated, too many variables with the brain waves.
Yeah, it's far too many.
Yeah, and that was Batman Forever.
Right.
That was Batman Forever.
Right.
But I mean, it's amazing because that movie Batman Forever essentially is foreshadowing where we're headed. Essentially, it's incredible.
Do you ever think about the stuff like with prediction on TV, like The Simpsons, like the prediction stuff?
Yeah, that's pretty.
Is it eerie to you, or
That's
is it
pretty creepy sometimes. Yeah.
like I mean, I guess it's not hard to predict certain things like cell phones and like because we'd been predicting those for a while. Like
Well, yeah, ever
you
since
know,
the original Star Trek with the flip communicators,
yeah, yeah.
and then and then cell phones started off. They had the flip phone look just like a communicator, and and now the flip phone's making a comeback, and it's sort of
Wait,
it,
is
it,
it?
it's sort of, yeah, you see the one that opens up and folds completely. The new ones that
No,
are, yeah, they're making a resurgence. I don't know if it's the iPhone or if it's an Android, but
it's
it
got to
actually
be an Android.
fully opens up and then it fully closes,
Oh my
like
god, the flip phone
a
making a
flip phone
comeback.
type thing. Yeah, yeah,
Retro is in, baby. Retro is in.
Batdan 530 wants to know, if we are living in a simulation, then how do we know the world outside our simulation is not a simulation itself? Well, there could be multiple simulations going on. That's the thing, Batdan. And as the simulation gets more computer power and gets more and more powerful and more advanced, the simulation gets more and more advanced. Like, I like to think about it like this: the only time in the simulation that something is using up would be using quantum computer power would be if it's being rendered. So, like, for example, if you turn the lights off, you're in the dark, all your stuff is still there, and you can see silhouettes of it, but it's not really using computer power. If you subscribe to simulation theory, it's not really using computer power because it's not being fully rendered.
Well,
You're not, so
well,
you're like your eyes, for example. A better example would be your eyes. When you're looking at something, it's being rendered to your eyes. When you're not looking at it, it doesn't have to be rendered because no one's watching it. It's like when they do that little atom test,
yeah,
and when it's being observed, it acts a certain way, but when it's not being observed, it doesn't, almost like it's self-aware.
yeah, yeah.
That's simulation, because why would it be self-aware? It
Right,
should perform the same regardless of if somebody's looking at it or not.
right. Yeah, there's multiple things that if under a telescope. Yeah, it's funny that you said that because there was yeah, the they did a test. Basically, they created a they tested the idea of simulation theory, and they created a very 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 basic computer that simulated a world, right? It simulated some sort of computer world, right? Like it was like on a, like I said, basic level. It wasn't like it was The Sims. It had basic functionalities, and it was given the ability to evolve and do all those things. Um, it the way that the test panned out, it virtually said that the computer learned and fixed situations um, in real time, so that the basically what it was trying to uh, trick or dupe never even noticed, right? So that my point being, if we are in a simulation, how come there's no glitches? How come we don't notice um like widespread blackouts, like you said, here and there, where like the something isn't right? Like if we are living in a simulation, what happens if the power flipped off, right? And I think the answer to that is being able to render in real time, like you know uh, that's what maybe deja vu is, or maybe that's what dreams are, right? Is us seeing a glimpse into the real world, or a multiversal version of ourselves.
Yeah, and you would also have to think that if you another safeguard against glitches would essentially be if would be multiple uh, backup generators, so that if you have a glitch, it can be immediately corrected. Because again, deja vu is a perfect example. I would say deja vu is the ultimate glitch, and it happens a lot.
Yeah,
So
almost all the time.
and and tying back into the idea of the Mandela effect, you know, I think that that's very real, because that is essentially like saying, well, the people that are controlling the simulation are essentially making changes to suit whatever they want, however they want things to be at the current time. So they want you to remember that Curious George doesn't have a tail. For some reason, that's important to who's ever programming the simulation. So
Right.
there's certain things that, like for example, things with Star Wars and things like that, with like candy bars and company logos and things like that. To us, we wouldn't know why that's important. We just know that we remember things a certain way, and then you look at it now and you realize you were completely wrong. Well, that's not how it was. And I don't know if that's just the way the simulators essentially just messing with us and saying, well, no, this is how it is. Like, you've heard that whole story surrounding Sinbad making that genie movie, right? You've heard that story, right? About the movie Shazam that Sinbad allegedly made in the 90s as a genie. And people remember that movie and swear up and down that Sinbad made that movie. But Sinbad never made a movie about being a genie. The only person that at that time that made a movie about being a genie was Shaq, was
Shaq, right?
Shaquille O'Neal, and the movie was Kazam,
Kazam.
not Shazam. But people distinctly remember, to the point where they remember plot details, specific scenes, specific things, that Shazam was in this movie, and this movie got buried, and it was this whole conspiracy theory that the movie was made, but the movie was received so poorly, and Sinbad did not want anybody to. He considered it to be a blight on his career, and he didn't want anybody to know about it. So they essentially buried it and are pretending like it never existed. And
Huh.
then and now currently, the last thing that came out about that was College Humor did a skit where they had Sinbad dress up as a genie, and they basically made fun of the idea, did a little skit making took all of the things that people, well, a lot of the things that people remember about this alleged movie that doesn't exist, and threw it in the College Humor skit. And it basically resonated with people that are, that remember, that claim to remember this movie. Now I of course I don't remember this movie. I vaguely remember it, remember something about it back in the day, but I think it was just maybe a misunderstanding between the Shaq movie and
Yeah,
Sinbad.
yeah.
But who knows? I mean, it's really, really weird, but it's a big thing, and people have been debating about it for years. So I don't know.
And you
I
can't
really
tell them that, like you know what I mean. You can't say that it didn't happen, because honestly, at this point, who knows?
exactly.
It could very well be true. Um, and those things kind of freak me out a little bit. Like,
Oh, like about movies like that
no,
movie.
no, not movies like that. But the whole theory in itself.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
does it make you like this is getting a little deeper, but if simulation theory is real, what does that say about the afterlife? What does that say about what happens after we go?
I have a
Um,
I have a theory about that.
Go ahead.
That we essentially don't die. What happens is you die in the reality that you're living, and then you just continue on in another reality where you didn't die. You're just a program that exists through, you're just a program that exists through generations of programs until the creator feels like you're no longer needed. It's essentially like it's almost like, for me, when they found computer DNA, computer code in DNA, in human DNA. Why is computer code in human DNA?
Right.
That right there for me is the smoking gun that we're living in a simulation theory. Because if there's computer code in human DNA, that means we're programs. We're not just biological beings. We're programs meant to think that we're biological beings, programmed to feel pain, programmed to feel that
When did
we're
they
in
find?
avatars and skins. There's some articles about that about the computer code in human DNA. It's I just that to me was
I've
trippy.
never heard that. I
Yeah.
am very interested in
Yeah,
that.
you have to check that out. If I would have thought about it sooner, I would have had the article for the show. But I think it is very, very fascinating. And Chad Snyderverse says Ready Player One is pretty much the metaverse. Well, think about it. Oculus went from being Oculus to being Meta. So now we have the metaverse. So that they're headed towards Ready Player One. That is essentially the goal, to give us Ready Player One. Ty, do you feel like if we are living in a simulation, does that change your view on human existence at all?
Yes.
If you were to find out tomorrow and it were confirmed, like absolutely, confirmed factually, we are living in a simulation, how would that change your life?
I would I'd quit my job. Well, no, I wouldn't quit my
Yeah, I mean, if you're living, whether you're living in a simulation or not, you still have bills to pay. You still have things
yeah,
to accomplish. You still have things you have to
yeah,
accomplish in this world, like a video game.
right.
So,
Yeah. So I would take more chances.
okay, yeah,
I would take more risk. I wouldn't dare I wouldn't, but I'd also, honestly, I'd be happy. I'd be happy.
I kind of would be too. I think it's fascinating, and I think it would be. It's like,
It would at least be an answer. And I
yeah,
think what most people are looking for is an answer, right? And once we got that answer, well, okay, at least we know now. Now we can start working on, because I'll be honest with you. One of the things I'm scared of the most is death.
okay. Well,
Right.
that's true with everybody, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. But death, and even if I live 100 long, lovely, years, I still don't want to die. I don't care. I don't want to die. I dislike the idea of one day this will all, because I've come to love.
We don't have the ability to comprehend our own deaths. That's the thing. As human beings, there's no comprehension of death, because there's no way we can process not existing.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, and the idea that, yeah, if we're living in a simulation, that gives us hope for the afterlife, because that means that essentially
I would just
you
be in a
can go
different
on.
computer now.
Yeah, you're in a different computer, you're in a different thing. That would mean that death is essentially a place, and a different program. But I really think it's kind of like a video game. And the simplest way to put it would be like Super Mario jumping into a hole. He jumps into a hole, he dies, and he essentially respawns somewhere else.
Right.
Right back at the beginning of the level. I don't know that you necessarily relive the same life, but I think you just are part of a branching path, where you didn't, again, a branching path where you didn't die.
I get what you're saying. That I now that makes sense.
I'm going to tell you a story of something that happened to me where that really made me believe that is the case, and kind of confirmed simulation theory in my heart. When I was younger, I had gone out on a date, and and I had gone to an ice cream shop, and I'm severely allergic to peanuts,
Okay.
and I ate some ice cream, and it had peanuts on the top, and I had a very very severe allergic reaction to peanuts. I went to the hospital, and the doctor had told me that my throat was literally in the process of closing up, and had I gotten to the hospital 5 minutes later than I did, I would have been dead.
Okay.
And I thought about that for a second, because do you ever have a feeling like you have that feeling of like someone walking on your grave?
Yeah.
I had had that feeling where it was just a really really eerie feeling, and I didn't have it until I was in the hospital, and I was getting all of the medicine pumped through me to cure the reaction. It
Right.
was But I had that feeling of like, it was a really cold and chilling feeling, and it
Right.
made me think like I could have died at that time from that allergic reaction and branched off into another reality where I didn't die. I was cured in time, and I and
Holy
I
fuck.
eh,
You just blew my mind because I've had a moment like that as well. I can't get into the details of said moment because it's not safe for this conversation. But I was doing this. For anyone who doesn't know, I am a recovering alcoholic. But alcohol was not the only drug or substance that I used on a regular basis. Because when you drink, you use other things. One night, I was convinced that I died. I'm still convinced that I died, and something has not been the same since.
do
And
you do you notice differences in your life, differences in the way you feel,
yes,
different
differences in the way I perceive.
differences in the way
Dude,
people that you
you
know.
might have given me an answer to why I've felt this way for the past many years. Like
You're in
I'm
you're
I'm
in a
talking.
different reality than the one you were in
I think
before
I
you
died
had
that
that.
night.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like that. I really do. Because I noticed, because Ty, I started to notice little subtle changes, things that were not quite up to snuff. They were very, very subtle, but they were there. Changes in things, not something so massive like somebody that I know was who had died was alive. Nothing like that. Nothing that severe, but in terms of
Right.
just little subtleties and little things that haven't been quite the same since. Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
think I
so
think
weird.
I think we have both been there, because you are describing exactly what what I was feeling.
Like
Absolutely.
I had told someone about this afterwards too. And honestly, I never really talked about the changes that I felt until recently, but I did open up to someone about it. And the way that they looked at me, it was like they couldn't understand me, but they might have had a similar situation. Um, and, nothing came of the conversation, but, uh, you know, like I said, things have just things have not been the same since that moment. And I remember thinking to myself, "This is it. Like I did too much, and this is gonna be the end." And then a brief moment went past, and like I can't remember that moment. And then I was fine. I was fine. I went to the hospital, and I they were like, "Yeah, you're fine."
Like a brief. Okay, so I'm gonna say, I'm gonna tell you how I interpreted it, and then you tell me if this is correct. I had like a brief blackout. It was brief. It was very, very minor. It wasn't long. It was a brief blackout. And then when I woke up, when I came to and I started recovering from the reaction, that's when I started noticing changes almost immediately. It
Yeah.
was almost immediate.
Yeah. 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 So like you said, I had a very, almost identical. And because, I did, I, I'm pretty sure I overdosed that night.
That Yeah, see, again, this is what I'm talking about. And now you're in a different reality from that one. It's not it's not that different. It's essentially a parallel one with just slight variations, but enough for you to
To
know
notice.
to
But
notice it.
maybe a regular person or someone who didn't think, or I think we some people have the ability to to perceive and remember, but others don't. Others wouldn't know.
Right, because
Um,
essentially you're not supposed to know. It's supposed to be a seamless transition. So
right.
you're not supposed to know. So when you know that something's off, that means that the simulation screwed up somehow.
Yeah. 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 I like that
there's
idea.
there's your error. There's your the error you were talking about when you mentioned earlier about where's the errors, where's the inconsistencies. There it is. It's essentially you remembering things or noticing that things are just a little off, where you can't quite put your finger on exactly everything, but things are just a little bit off. I also had another experience very similar to that when I was very, very young, and I had a surgery. I had an operation, and I remember when I had the operation as a child. I remember before going into the surgery, I told my parents I didn't want to die. And I remember having the surgery, having the operation, and coming out of the operation. And I also remember things being different. And that was the first experience I'd ever had with some feeling like I was in a different
Really?
place from before. But that was all the way back when I was a kid. And
Right.
I never really thought about it or put it into context like this until I had
Until you
the
had the second
experience
one.
at the ice cream shop. Yeah, it's crazy, but man, I think you and I experienced the same thing. I really
Yeah, I'm
do.
pretty sure we're survivors of, or not survivors, but we are uh, some of the people that have seen a little bit through the veil.
Yeah, we've transcended, and we essentially remember a transition that we're not really supposed to remember. And Retro Nerd Girl says here, besides the Matrix, the 13th Floor, released in 1999 as well, covered a lot of this. These are fun, ideas, ponderous ideas.
Maybe we
Yes,
can talk a little bit about aliens too in a minute.
yeah, I think that would be a good. I think aliens would be a good transition, because
Yeah.
if we are living in a simulation, that's another reason why we can say, when people say the question, well, where are the aliens? Well, there's your example. There's your answer. If we're living in a simulation, maybe they don't have the computing power to make aliens in the way that we would perceive them at this particular time. But they've been sprinkling in little hints and little clues that yes, we are eventually going to get aliens. Aliens have been among us. There's little Easter eggs and things that
Uh,
we've been being teased with for several decades now. And eventually, they are going to be at the point where they're going to have the computing power to have ETs parading up and down the streets. It's going to
right.
happen. It's going to happen, but it just hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
the point that you had made her on your podcast that night when we were talking about it, when you mentioned the Chinese article, what they had discovered, and
Yeah.
then they've been trying to debunk it all over the place now.
All over. They've been trying to debunk it, saying it's radio wave interference. It's this, it's that. And the thing that pisses me off is, for a long while, people wanted proof. Okay, there's all these sightings. Give me proof. Give me unequivocal proof that aliens are among us, right? Then the Commander Fravor video comes out. The U.S. military chasing down an object, and I use that term loosely because the object was so fast and so unlike anything that they could handle that it was more like observing than chasing. That video comes out. The U.S. government confirms that's not us, and we arguably have the most advanced tech there is in the world. And if it's not us, there's only one other option. Well, there's two other options. Maybe obviously there's multiple other options, but that most of them range in the sense that, unless Russia or China has discovered alien tech and they're working on it, or we're working on it,
because if we were working on it, the public wouldn't know.
Exactly. So those are options, but I think the option of, it could be a different country, that is bullshit. Unless they have found alien tech and they're experimenting on it. But no other country has the ability to maneuver ships the way, and these ships, these entities, they did not produce any exhaust. So it was anti-gravity. That's the way that they moved. So not in a combustion engine, but a anti-gravity esque way. So no one. I mean, we're still 100 years from being able to do that.
Yeah, but it will come.
The point being, we now have the proof, and now people want. Okay, so first they wanted evidence. Then we gave them evidence. Now they want even more evidence, right? It's never going to end. People just don't want to believe it for some reason. But I will tell you this: aliens they exist, and they've been here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping simulation theory out of this for a second, I think they're here, and because we've reached it, I bring back my book thing. The reason that they are here in abundance now is because of our technological advancement. Because we now have the ability to destroy the earth and to destroy each other, which would have ramifications through the universe. So here. They're here to protect us from ourselves.
And that actually makes a whole lot of sense. It really does when you think about it, because if this planet were to blow up, just thinking logically, just imagine what it would do. It would throw so many. It would throw the solar system out of whack for one, but it would probably create a lot of ripples throughout the universe.
Yes, it would. It would absolutely create a domino effect that would not be good.
Yeah, I agree. And El Necron here says, I read somewhere that our conscience is energy that passes from our body and transfers to the next level, if you will. Yeah, that essentially makes sense. If our consciousness is energy and we are essentially programs, it would actually make sense that if we were to die and continue on living, that energy would just travel to.
I've always said something like that. I think there's only, matter cannot be created nor destroyed.
Exactly.
I think that, basically our souls are, what we call a soul is, or a code, whatever you want to call it, for this example. There's only so much of that in the universe, right?
Right.
Only so much of that in our world, or our little sphere. So it's constantly being recycled. That can also be where deja vu comes from, right? Because because what you're not reincarnated as a frog, you're reincarnated as a human. That's why sea turtles once. How do sea turtles know exactly what to do when they're born? Out of instinct. What is instinct? Instinct can only be explained by having lived a life similar to this before.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like the experiences that you and I were talking about earlier, about coming, feeling like maybe we died and coming back and experiencing everything being a little bit off from the way it was.
Right.
You're something, something had to happen, that energy had to go somewhere.
And it's don't get me. I hate to do this, but religion. I mean, what do you think about religion?
I look at religion as a good thing for spiritual growth, and for for helping people to believe in something and to find a
Cope.
compass and to cope with the issues of life. But I also feel like there are things that you can look at outside of religion. But then I looked at this because I studied in college. I studied world religions, and one of the things that I noticed when for example, in the Bible, it talks about you know everlasting life. And when I read the Bible, it makes me think the Bible is confirming simulation theory. The Bible is telling you that when you die, you will have everlasting life. Essentially, when you die, you continue to live. That's what happened to you and me when we died, okay, from our experiences. We didn't go anywhere else. We didn't go to the
Promised land.
assumed
Yeah.
heaven or assumed hell. What did we do? We ended up going into a world that is very similar to the one that we came out of, but we noticed that certain things are off. It,
That's a good way
it's
to think
it's
about it.
so again, it's everlasting life. So if it happens again, and you have another experience where you technically where you die, you're essentially going to leave this existence and continue on in a parallel existence in which you didn't die, but
Maybe
things
maybe
will
I would
feel off.
maybe I would maybe I would die and then enter a reality where the Snyderverse was restored.
I don't know. I just know that there
I know
that would
it was
be
a
that
joke.
would be that would be funny, because I've seen like different realities where I've seen people, in all seriousness, who have psychological trauma, because they feel like they've come from completely different realities. Whereas you and I, we had our experience where coming back felt like there was something off. But
Yeah.
these people literally came from realities where things were more than just a little
Polarly
bit off,
different.
like polar different. People that they like. There was this story about this one woman who had a near death experience, or was clinically dead for 10 minutes or whatever. And when she came back to life, she came back to a world where she was married to a man she didn't know.
No
She had
fucking
she
way.
had she had a life that she totally didn't understand, didn't know where it was, didn't remember anything about the people around her, didn't know her family members. she was really messed up because the life she remembered was not the life she was living from the experience that she had. So I believe that is like a major glitch in the simulation if that's the case, if your life is completely that off. And then of course there's stories about people who claim to come from, parallel universes and
Right,
stuff
right,
where
right.
you have totally different. Did you hear the story about the guy that claimed to go to a parallel reality, and he brought back an alleged Beatles recording
No.
that was made years and years after the Beatles, had split up and all that stuff. After John Lennon's death, Lennon was still alive in this reality, and the Beatles had continued to make music decades later after in this reality, and he had come back with an actual recording, and it's been online for quite a while, and people to this day are still debating the authenticity of the recording. There's still some are saying, oh well, it's real. Some are saying, well, it could have been pieced together by someone or edited cleverly. But with the way but back then, you know that maybe, did the technology actually exist for something like that to have been created? It's pretty fascinating stuff. uh Jesse Allen says here, I have had sleep paralysis one night, and damn certain that experiences a glimpse into a whole other universe. Yep, sleep
Well,
paralysis is something else too that people.
well, that's another thing is I'm not sure if anyone here has done DMT. I have. Um, so tryptamine, uh, DMT is, uh, you know, it's one of the craziest things I've ever experienced. It's the only drug that I've ever done where you are literally blasted into a different universe. Like you are no longer on the what we perceive plane of existence.
Where do you go? Like, what
It's
is.
it's it's hard to explain, but because everyone, but this is a one drug because people take mushrooms and feel different things. People take acid and feel different things, but anyone who takes DMT all says the same thing, that you go to this place and people there's these things, and this happened to me too, that I was so basically what you do is you smoke DMT, right? So you smoke it before you even exhale. You're already gone. You are no longer here. And you go for this ride, and it only lasts about 15 minutes. But um, you, I was in this place, and this person, this thing, was telling me to calm down, calm down, calm down, experience, like take it. They were basically telling me, take it all in. There's nothing to worry about. Take it all in. And I was looking around, and I, I mean, just pure beauty, just absolutely gorgeous. I can't explain it. But when I came back, I, 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 I looked around, and I had so much appreciation for the things around me. And it was just it, it was a profound experience.
Wow, that sounds very, very interesting.
It's scary as fuck, but you the more you do it, the better, the easier it is to cope with.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. And Jesse Allen says, I think when we die, we enter a theater with the biggest screen ever seen, and all it plays is reruns of ZodWriter show for all eternity. Oh my God, I hope not. That would be crazy. Um,
Imagine just ZodWriter live Q&As
Ranting. No,
for
me ranting about James Gunn for 2 hours over and over again on a loop. That would be insane. Yeah, creepiest thing I ever experienced. I saw the shadow person as well. That has been
The
brought up
shadow,
by
the
others.
shadow person that's in sleep paralysis, I believe, right?
That's
That's
nuts.
so what happens, and it's the shadow figure is an imp, uh, that basically, holds you down, and it feels like, people wake up and they have a bunch of pressure on their chest.
I've had that feeling before at night. Yeah. You'll have a dream and it'll feel like paralysis, and it'll actually feel like you're being physically held down.
Yeah, that's sleep paralysis, and that's the imp that people talk about. Uh, there's when DMT, the entity I was just talking about. The people say it's a mechanical elf.
Okay.
That's like, uh, elf being loosely used, but it's like some sort of, uh, machine, which could also lead to simulation theory. What if it's a machine creating these simulations?
It's very possible. Retro Nerd Girl says, I told a friend the theory that this lifetime is what happens when we survive a near death experience, and they got really upset. I don't mention that to most people.
Yeah, people get upset when you tell them, when you question their, like, say they, when you challenge someone's beliefs, they get very defensive.
Absolutely. Because when you're challenging your beliefs, you're putting it into their mind that they could be wrong, or they could be or they cuz they don't want to question, have I been living a lie this whole time? They don't want to think about that. They don't even want to ponder the concept. So that's especially true when you talk to somebody that has very, very deep religious values.
And I
It's
hate to break it to them, but when aliens show up, or as what is being referred to as, um shit, what is it called? God, I can't remember. But the day that they tell us that aliens exist, um, the church is going to be really upset.
well, that could be one of the main reasons. Have you thought about this? That could be one of the main reasons why it has not been really made public that aliens have truly been among us for so long. There's been no like official like thing of that because of the churches, because of the religious the religious sects. They
Yeah,
know that if
yeah,
that happens, that changes the whole thing, and the hierarchy changes for real at that point, because then people will start to look at the Bible and say, well, Jesus was the world's first metahuman.
yeah, yeah. Basically,
Because you can't reconcile it any other way.
yeah,
You could say because there are actually some documentaries and things out there that have said, well, that have tried to depict Jesus as essentially an alien,
yeah,
either an alien or a metahuman of some type. So if aliens somehow become, prominent in our society at some point, that's what you're going to get. And I think the church will, at least in the Christian sphere, will adopt that idea of Jesus being a metahuman of some sort once aliens, because if once aliens become a thing, then the churches have to evolve
yeah,
in order to stay prominent, and to stay in the, to keep people captivated, and to show people that their beliefs are not to just be thrown away, because you'll have a lot of people committing suicide if they feel like they've been living a lie for their whole life, and they've been believing the wrong thing. People don't take it lightly when their beliefs are disproven on that kind of a level. So if that ever
yeah,
happens,
yeah.
that's going to be dangerous to a lot of society,
What
unfortunately.
if aliens showed up tomorrow? What if
Yeah.
what if a craft showed up over the White House tomorrow, what do you think? How do you think the world would react?
It's weird, but I kind of feel like the world would react like it always does to adversity. People would essentially riot and act foolish and do things. You'd have people jumping out of windows. People
Yeah,
don't see, that's the problem. There's so many people in society who are stupid that don't that don't that don't stop and think about things. And I would say that it would be it would be bad for a lot of people. A lot of people would not be able to handle it. But I think, like everything else, uh, we're going to be prepped for it by our media before it
we've
happens.
been being
And
prepped.
they've been essentially, and I was just gonna say that they've been slowly but surely, you know, trying to make it, trying to normalize it, because that's what always happens. It takes a while before something goes from being a taboo subject that nobody wants to talk about to eventually getting the mainstream prominence that
I
it needs
mean,
to.
Bob Lazar has been telling us for years,
That's a good example. Yeah, he's been
for
telling us.
fucking years about the government cover up of the UFO or alien subject, saying, you know, and people he had nothing to gain from his situation. If anything, his life is now worse than it was before because he came out and he whistleblowed, um, or told the public about what was going on behind closed doors at Area 51 or S4 at the time. Um, so and things that he talked about, Element 115, which the scientific community laughed at him for years, 20 years, and then found out the element does exist. Um, and then the hands. So this is in the 80s. They had biometric hand readers to enter S4. That technology did not exist in the 80s publicly. And now he was telling us about it. Those are just two things, obviously, but both, um, both became realities.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Bob is a very, 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 very interesting. If anyone has not watched Jeremy Corbell's documentary about Bob Lazar and flying saucers, um, definitely give it a watch. Bob, it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind.
The technology advancements that we have had, that you mentioned earlier, that we've had over this short period of time, how we've evolved technologically, all comes from alien technology
Yeah.
that we have acquired, if you want to use the word.
Yeah, from things like
Oh,
the
oh,
Roswell crash.
right,
Yeah.
over time, and this is why you're seeing such a vast evolution in where we're going technologically, and which is why, again, once the quantum singularity hits, they call it the great singularity. Once that hits, yeah, technologically we're going to be in the stratosphere. So
Now, what would define um us hitting that singularity again? So it's quantum computers.
apparently it's going to be like it's a technological singularity that's going to happen by the year 2044, I believe, 2044. And by that time, it's going to basically, that's where you're going to get the nanotechnology that's going to be able to heal the ailments, and humanity is eventually going to be able to ascend, and basically that's going to be probably where we'll be able to travel to other worlds and go faster than the speed of light and that type of stuff. It's all going to happen so quickly. pretty much like the way technology's been advancing now, but this is going to be like a super boom. It's going to happen
Right.
so
Right.
it's going to happen so quickly in terms of the advancements that we're going to have. You're going to be talking about like within days, once that hits, things are going to just be popping, and we'll be at a point technologically that we've never been at, where we'll literally be able to transfer our consciousness into computers, into
Right.
androids, things like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. There was even a documentary about that not too long ago. It was narrated, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was narrated by Lawrence Fishburne, and it was actually really, really good, and it talked about that. And it even showed a situation where a girl had gotten hit by a car, and her parents were there, and the doctor arrived at the scene. The doctor was like a robot, and it arrived at the scene, and it basically told the parents, okay, you have 5 minutes to make your decision before your daughter dies. Do you want your daughter's consciousness to be uploaded into the A, B, C, or D? And they had a choice that they could make. They could let her die, or they could have her consciousness uploaded into some form of technology so she would continue to live. And of course, they chose to have her consciousness uploaded because she still survives, and she actually remembers the accident, remembers her death, but her consciousness allows her to continue, because your consciousness is just simply that energy that can be transferred from one place to the next, one vessel to the next, essentially.
Wow.
It's incredible. And I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's a National Geographic documentary, and it is on, I believe it's on Disney Plus.
So that was that's like a it, because you said it was a documentary. That's obviously a scene that is describing what could happen.
Yeah, that's saying where we're headed. Yeah.
Right. Because obviously that a robot doctor didn't show up at a car crash 2 years ago and do that.
No, it was you remember, I want to say, like, there was something similar to it in Back to the Future, where there were robots flying around and stuff. It was similar to that. It was like a little robot that kind of flew by and was on the scene. It was like a medical robot that was on the scene of the accident, and it came and it diagnosed, the daughter, the medical condition she was in, and and the parents were there, and it told them, you have a decision to make. So I mean, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is insane, but this is where where we're headed technologically. We'll be able to
Yeah.
do these things, and it's not even. But that tells me that to me, that puts one more in the category for simulation, being able to do all this stuff. Technology advancing on the level that it is. So it's either one of two things. It's either simulation theory is real, or alien technology is what is fueling us, has been fueling us all this time. It's one
Yeah.
or the other.
And reverse engineering that technology has gotten us to a point where, the we haven't even scratched the surface of what is possible in technology. Technology was, it it's crazy. It really is crazy when you think about it. Like, look at what we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have cameras and uh computers and microphones that pick up our voice and let the camera know to that these are happening at the same exact time, and then it's broadcast for people to watch and comment on. Like, we're already living in uh a quote unquote virtual world.
Yes. Yeah.
The internet is a virtual world.
It is.
It just hasn't been brought to a physical, like, the internet is not a physical thing yet.
Twitter is not a real place.
Yeah, but it will be. Do you think that the metaverse is just the beginning?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about virtual reality? Do you like it?
I like it. I
I
find
mean,
it to be a little bit disorienting,
yeah.
but they'll fix that.
Yeah, it's disorienting now because we're still dealing with essentially with goggles, but
Yeah.
we'll be, but once we're beyond that, and you could tie that in with augmented reality, I think things will be so much better and so much easier through holograms and various other things that they're going to do. It just is for me now. Virtual reality is a lot of fun, and I think it's still in its infancy
Oh,
at
it's
this point
very
in
much
time.
in its infancy.
But we're further along with it than I really thought we would be by now, because for the longest time virtual reality was essentially a stalled thing. It was kind of, they've just now within the last 5 or so years really started pushing that tech, mainly because of Facebook and Meta, building towards, virtual reality becoming a household name and a mainstream product.
Do you
But
think
we're getting there.
I feel like Ready Player One, when that movie came out, really kick started that whole idea. Like
Yeah,
people wanted that. Like it seems so cool. Um, but the problem then becomes, um, not experiencing real life or what we perceive as real life, right? Regardless of if it's a simulation or not. Um, like if the metaverse becomes a place where we spend 80% of our day, we're gonna forget that you could take a trip to the rainforest.
sure, sure,
And
because you're gonna be big, because bro, you're gonna be busy flying around on dragons. You're not gonna care about the rainforest.
I know.
It's almost like, have you ever heard of a movie called Virtual Revolution?
No.
I highly recommend you watch it. I believe it is on Amazon Prime for free. I highly recommend you check it out. It is a wonderful, wonderful film. It essentially deals with the question of, should we live our lives uh, in the virtual world, in the real world, or should we divide our time between both? And in this movie, you know, people in society have told a lot of people in society have completely given up on life itself and have decided that the virtual world is much, much more appealing, and they decide to do away with reality altogether. So they take their savings and whatever money they have left, and they pour it into this virtual reality where they're able to live their lives basically getting fed. They're like sitting in a chair, basically being fed intravenously while they're living in this virtual world, doing whatever they want, living out whatever fantasies they, that please them. It is really a fascinating movie, and there's elements in it that are very Blade Runner esque. There's this story about this investigator, kind of like a cop, like a Harrison Ford Blade Runner type character, and he's chasing down people that are doing nefarious things in the real world, but his heart is essentially in the virtual world, but he still has to do things in the real world uh, to to live. And it's really a fascinating film. But I I wonder, if given the chance, would you choose to fully live in the virtual world, or live a mixture of both, or live fully in the real world? What would you do?
But a mixture.
Yeah, me too. I think
Yeah.
it would be important to have that balance, because again, in the virtual world you could do all kinds of great things, like, fly on dragons or whatever, but you do want to be in the real world sometimes. But we're talking about a time where the virtual world and the real world are going to be completely indistinguishable from one another. So
Right.
so you So you're going to be eating at
What
fine
about
dining establishments in the virtual world. I mean,
right, right. What about like movies? Would you go? You'd go to a theater in the virtual world and sit down and watch a movie that way?
oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I like watching movies in VR now. I think it's super fun where you can sit in an actual movie theater and watch your movie on a big screen and have it be essentially emulating that experience. It's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty fun. So I can just imagine, once virtual reality reaches that Ready Player One level, we'll really be able to go to movie theaters on the moon. We'll be able to it's gonna be insane. Anything you can think of
You can
will
watch
essentially be able to
movies
do.
on VR already?
Oh yeah, in a movie theater, yeah, it's insane. Lots of fun. You get that same experience. You'll be in a movie theater, and you'll essentially, when you look around, you'll see that you're in a movie theater. You can actually see the projection screen behind you, and you'll see the exit sign, and you'll see all the other seats. It's really, really cool. It's really great.
Oh my god. And
Yeah.
what is that, Oculus?
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it on Oculus. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What's the quality of the movie? Like, is it's
Perfect.
HD and everything?
Oh yeah, well, it looks like you have looks like you're sitting in an IMAX theater.
What the
That's
fuck?
what's essentially you're putting it puts your movie on essentially an IMAX screen. And if you have a home media server, what you can basically do is you can link it to I use a program called Skybox, and you can essentially link it to your home media server, and you can stream whatever movies you have on your home media center directly on this big screen in this movie theater. And they've even got it set up. They've got some program on there. I'm trying to think of the name of it,
I gotta get this Oculus thing.
called Big Box, where you're actually able to watch your movies in a movie theater with other people as long as they have the headset, and they have access to the same program. You can invite them in, and you see little avatars of people, because you create an avatar when you're in virtual reality, and you have you can have a theater full of people watching a movie that you're streaming in a virtual movie theater on an IMAX screen. It's fantastic. And
Oh
you
my
can and you
god.
can and Ty, you can do that now. So
Right,
I'm just
right.
saying that the only thing I don't like about it, and the only thing that bothers me, is that these virtual reality headsets don't have the greatest battery life in the world. So when you're trying to watch a movie, it drains your battery life pretty quickly. So you got to have it set up a certain way. I like to sit in an area where I can have the charger right next to me, so that I can plug it in and still have the headset on, because I don't want to, because I want to be able to sit through a whole movie, and that unfortunately isn't the most comfortable, but at the same time, it's a nice experience, and it's a nice alternative to see movies in a movie theater that you
So,
otherwise wouldn't be able to watch in a movie theater.
so with the Oculus thing, what else can you do in the Oculus world?
Well, as of right now, everything is, there's tons of virtual reality games and things like that. And, of course, there's, you know, um, kind of like where there's interactive environments and things where you're able to like kind of mingle with other people. There's even artists that like to do live concerts and stuff exclusively on virtual reality. So you can go, and sometimes they'll be putting on a free concert. You can go to the concert, and it'll actually be a live event, and you'll be up, you'll be up close. You'll be right there. It's like being at the concert. It's incredible, and of course, and the games are okay, but I don't really use virtual reality for the games. I think games are kind of jarring for me, and after a while, again, the disorientation sort of makes it an unpleasant experience after a while. But for me, virtual reality is still growing, and it's going to be better. I mean, One game I do really like. I like the Star Wars Vader game that's on virtual
Oh
reality.
my
That's
god,
pretty
that
nice.
looks so amazing.
You would love it, man. You actually in your hand when you have the controllers, the controller vibrates and feels like you're actually holding a lightsaber. You could actually feel the
The
vibrations of the lightsaber.
zzz,
Yeah, you can actually
zzz.
feel it through you,
How
and it's
much is
like you're
Oculus?
I think the cheapest it is right now is it was $300. I think they've got discounted ones at $200 now. I'm not sure.
And
Uh,
and do you need to buy anything extra?
Not really. It comes with the two controllers. The only thing I would recommend you having is an external headset that you could plug in so that because otherwise the audio you'll you know wherever you are, they can hear the audio of whatever you're doing. So it's cool to have a headset to plug in and have over your ears while you're
Like just like a headset?
yeah, just like a regular headset with a tiny jack, not a USB one, but the
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just plug into the
Oh,
hole.
yeah, I have plenty of those. So
Yeah.
okay.
So you'd be good. That's really all you would really.
I want to buy one. I want to buy that, and I want to buy a drone.
Oh god, that's insane. That's so much fun. What would you do with your drone?
Footage
Awesome.
like for instance, I am hosting Comic-Con July 23rd.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was I'm going to be doing a live podcast from the convention. Um, with but I also am going to be filming like interviews with cosplayers and just filming the convention, things that are going on. I would have loved to have a drone to do like, you know, um to get like a above the crowd shot, like
Awesome.
use it for high altitude um camera angles.
That's awesome. And that's the convention that you and Saggy are gonna be at
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. I wish I was in that area. If I was, I would definitely come because it would be cool to meet you guys at an actual event like that. That's really
Yeah.
neat. That's
Yeah.
really neat.
We got lucky. Well, I mean, I invited Saggy with me, cause
Yeah, she's in that area with you, right? You're both from the
cause she's
Boston
in
area?
yeah. But Springfield Comic Con reached out to me, and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like, you know, yeah, of course I do.
That's
Uh,
great.
Cause Springfield Comic Con's not going to be the biggest convention, but
It's gonna be
um,
fun as hell, that's for sure.
yeah, it's going to be fun as hell, and it's also I can put that on a resume for San Diego Comic Con eventually.
Yeah, there you
You know?
go. And yeah, and you'll get some great footage out of it, and it'll be a wonderful time. It's gonna be good. That's some exciting stuff. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing what you guys are gonna come up with.
Yeah, all of it will be pre-recorded, and then I'm gonna take a week, edit it all together in like a YouTube video way, and then I'll debut it, and y'all can watch everything from the live podcast to interviews with cosplayers and anyone else. Wink, wink. Anyone else who stops by the booth. I do have a couple surprises. Plus, Ray Porter, Mark Pellegrino, Brandon Spink. Brandon Spink played young Bruce Wayne in BVS.
Awesome.
So all three of those guys, plus two more that I can't confirm yet, are all joining virtually. So we're bringing the heat. We're bringing the heat.
That's gonna be fun, man. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, man. And what else you got coming up?
Um, Nothing coming up aside from Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Uh, I always forget. Do you watch any of the Marvel stuff?
Oh yeah, I'm into the Marvel stuff too. I'm just more of a DC
I'm
guy,
more of
but
a
I'm
DC
but
guy
I'm
as well.
but I'm into but man, I watch all this stuff. I do.
I
I'm a
haven't
fan of everything.
I didn't get to sit down and watch. I fell asleep. I fell asleep for uh like 6 hours today during the day because I didn't sleep at all last night. But I was gonna watch the Kenobi finale and Miss Marvel, as well as Superman and Lois.
I gotta catch
Um,
up on Miss Marvel. I was for me, I was more excited for the finale of Kenobi.
yeah,
So I got to see that. So I love Kenobi. Kenobi is, to me, I don't, all the hate that show is getting from all sides.
it's so good.
I think it's ridiculous because Kenobi is so much fun. Such a good show.
Yeah, such a good show. Such a good show. Speaking of that, I do gotta go.
Yeah, I'm about to wrap things up now. So I just wanted to get your, I wanted to kind of get your final thoughts and for you to let us all know what you have coming up next. But Ty, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss simulation theory, break all this stuff down. And, we got to do this again and collaborate some more, man. Cause
no, we
this
will.
was
We
fun.
will. Now the barriers are broken, right?
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Ty, for being here. Thank you for everyone in the chat for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow night with another episode of Late Night Q&A.
Who's on?
With the legendary artist Mask of Shy. So that should be fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Good night, everybody.